So how long should we be waiting again? I hear some birdsong, Saf questioned indignantly, as it became apparent she wasn't winning this hand against Maiko. You are too good at this to be trustworthy. Oh no, that one was just luck, he reassured her, taking the cards and starting to shuffle anew. Not much had happened yet, if they were totally honest. They were sitting in a forest with a campfire and some cards. It was a pretty spot, but it did feel sort of wrong to have so much to do back at the keep, and yet be out here, playing cards and contemplating if they needed to get dinner going on the fire. As Maiko shuffled, he turned over to the brains of the operation, calling her, who hadn't deigned to give Saf an answer to her quite reasonable question. Well, old man? Think she's listening? I believe she knows we are here. I feel her presence, Callinger responded perfectly seriously, not turning to look at them, as he kept scanning the forest like a guard on watch. Sure thing, buddy, Saf just sighed, knowing full well Callinger could do no such thing. Damn nutjob. Then a small red songbird landed on Maiko's horn, hopping around peacefully and taking a look around at all of them. Oh. The bird turned to look at Sapphire, its little head tilting as the black beady eyes stared at her, devoid of emotion. I see you brought a familiar face, Callinger, she heard, emanating from the back of her mind, in the all-too-familiar fashion. Yes, Sapphire has met you before. I apologize for the disturbance. It has been an interesting few days, Your Holiness, Callinger replied right away, assumedly having gotten that message too, bowing seemingly just angled towards the forest in general. I guess Her Holiness is having a chat, Saf thought to herself, before she remembered there was a pretty good chance Celestine could hear what she was thinking. Shit, right, respectful. Oh, this is hard. Okay, no thinking. You got this. Well, hello there, Sapphire. I see the proper titles have been remembered. How is Fengi? Celestine's voice rang out inside her head once more. This time it didn't seem like anyone around her got the message too, though. The unicorn didn't sound overly upset, much to Saf's relief, but there was something she struggled to put her finger on there. An intensity like someone smiling through gritted teeth. Saf did try to scan around without making it too obvious, finding no sign of the unicorn. She's doing well. A touch worried and uncertain, but she will be fine, I'm sure, Saf tried, hoping that didn't count as a lie. And the dragon? Celestine questioned expectantly, like she expected some good news. Miserable in the extreme, Saf responded more confidently, feeling quite sure Celestine would like that part. Marvellous, Celestine replied, with what Saf could best describe as malicious glee. She could almost feel the malicious intent radiating through the words. Maiko had just been sitting very still and staring at Saf, the small bird still perched on his horn, likely having worked out what was going on. Saf gave him a little nod, hoping to confirm his suspicions as everyone seemed to perk up at the same time. So, what brings you all here seeking me out? It has been a long time since a meeting was sought, and no trace of Nanook. My mother is still recovering following the battle with the brigands. Her wings have been lost, Rachuk spoke up, putting on a stern face. How unfortunate. But I feel that is not why you have sought me out, no? No, Warden. We have come here to seek your blessing and perhaps to exchange information on how the year has been progressing. Things have been abnormal, to say the least. Well, my forest got infected with darklings. One of your stupid little keeps fell, I broke my horn, my forest has been hunted like never before, and the only good thing to come out of all of it was nearly snuffed out by a dragon, and a black one at that, Celestine replied, not sounding impressed in the absolute slightest. In fact, she sounded sad more than anything, like she might actually have to sniffle. Did you at least manage to save most of that outrageous amount of life you took that one day? Why, yes. We did manage to salvage most of the honoured animals, despite the best efforts of those dastardly brigands, Callinger tried. Even Saf being more than able to make out the quivering in his voice. Glancing over at him, she also found he was on his knees, just like last time. Well, that is at least something, and my horn has started growing in beautifully. One day I might just be able to look in a lake again. That is good to hear. I believe you will be delighted to know that your last one is still safe within our walls. We promise we will keep it safe. No, came the apathetic reply. They all froze, not quite sure what she meant by that. Saf certainly didn't know what to say to that. What do you mean? Rachuk tried in his most diplomatic tone. I want you to use it. It is already lost. Make them pay, Celestine ordered, anger seeping into her words once more, and Saf feeling just a smidge of that familiar headache she remembered so sorely from last time. Of course, Corlinger let out. We have many new people at the keep. Masters of weapon making. I'm sure it can be put to good use. You would not happen to know how one may go about making the most of your horn, your highness? Victoria questioned, taking a knee as well. Whatever you want, I don't care. I don't want to hear about it again. I don't want to see it. I don't want to learn where it went. Just make it go away, Celestine answered, accompanied by even more headache, even if it went away quickly this time. Of course, Corlinger added in a strained tone as the pressure lifted. Saf and the others just nodded their agreement. Now I know you all are hiding something. Why are you actually here? What is this you seek a blessing for? More means to fight the enemy, Victoria responded, still kneeling. More dragons? Oh, don't let it be so, Celestine all but whined. No, we seek lumber to build factories for making weapons. Weapons designed by Tom. Do you remember Tom, the maniac with the machine saw? Corlinger got out before anyone else could answer. Yes, I do. He was the one who bled me and reclaimed my horn, Celestine replied, uncertainty in her tone, like she didn't know what to make of the human after everything that had happened. He believes we can produce more weapons to help fight all this corruption. The enemy is advancing. We are losing ground. Not just this island, but hundreds are under threat. We must fight back, Victoria added. Saf praying the unicorn's thirst for revenge extended beyond just their island. We have the backing and blessing of the Inquisition in this matter. We must not fail. There was silence for a bit, Saf waiting with bated breath as they all sat still. Where would this all be taken? Celestine finally answered skeptically. My precious woods? Our keep, Rachuk answered in a determined tone. We would have her drill dragon there as punishment, and then put her to work assisting in the construction. Work her to the bone. I see. Why did you seek me out to ask this? You know I cannot refuse you, even if I want to. We wanted your blessing to take the finest of woods for the building. We do not have the time to dry it out. Is it within your power to help us, so we will not need to spend more of your precious forest to replace the warped and broken beams in time? Corlinger asked, or more like pleaded. You can maybe even have called it begged, as his head was now pressed into the grass, with his arms spread out in front of him. Once more there was silence for a time, as they all waited. You will make my sacrifice count, or I will make you pay for what you took, Celestine finally responded, the reluctance clear in her voice. I want tales of darklings slain by these weapons you speak of. I will be able to tell if you are truthful, so you will prove to me this was not in vain. Oh, my blessed forest, how has it come to this? She carried on, voice turning to a whimper once more. I will bleed a heaven oak for you. Once it has killed itself, cut high above the root, and you shall have your dry lumber, devoid of all the life that makes it so precious. Holy shit, Saf let out, blinking a few times as everyone looked around at each other, minus Corlinger, of course, who was thoroughly glued to the ground by now. They had thought they might receive some regular trees, not a heaven oak. Thank you very much. That is too kind of you. I do not even know if we can see this much lumber transported to the keep, or sorted. A heaven oak must be hundreds of tons. We only have a month or two before the cold sets in, Corlinger let out, clearly awestruck. Oh, I cannot do it that quickly. It will be dry come spring, Celestine responded, seemingly very surprised they didn't know that. You wish to start already this year? We wish to construct a warehouse for the materials needed to construct the factory. Your gift is generous beyond measure. It will make for the finest lumber for the factory, Corlinger replied. This year we would ask for smaller straight trees. Fine straight wood good for beams and planking. Perhaps a regular oak? Then I shall plead them too, as best I can. Oh, the gods have mercy upon me for what I am about to do. You will have your wood, and that dragon, work her to the bone. I want my vengeance, and you shall give it to me, against all who have harmed my forest without my permission. Of course, it will be done, Corlinger replied, like a labourer trying to suck up to his boss. How will we know the chosen ones? Follow the little blue songbird. He will come when they are ready. Do try and keep up. Harm him, and you will answer to me. Of course, Celestine. It will be done. Very well. And protect the child. I will not tolerate harm befalling her. Tell that to your Inquisition friends, delusional as they are.
A heaven oak? She will let us cut down a heaven oak? Shiva had questioned, as Saf broke the news to the workshop the following morning. Tom still found it funny to see the smith get taken completely aback by something. It wasn't often it happened, even if Adita's hammers did have a similar effect. All the armour recovered from the flaxens. She will even bleed it first, whatever that means, Saf continued. All winter, so it is dry for spring when we need it. She must be making it draw all the fluids down into the roots. I have no clue if that will be dry enough, though, Tom pondered aloud. It was magic, so who was he to say? But it sounded a touch far-fetched if he was being completely honest. Heaven oak is strong. Immensely strong, but heavy. And this wood would carry the blessing of a unicorn. Corlinger will be beside himself, Shiva let out, shaking her head a little. There should be plenty enough wood that we could take some for weapon making. A heaven oak stalk would make for a fine substitute. We could make it thinner and slimmer, yet just as strong. Something worthy of being put in a collection.
I think any gun we make would warrant that, Junior tried with a bit of a coy smile. I mean, they are pretty unique.
I didn't know it was that rare, Adita spoke up, seeming confused. Don't inner keeps cut them down from time to time? Yes, on occasion, and often when one is dead or dying. But Celestine can be difficult at the best of times, and she has given her blessing and even her help in cutting down one of her treasured trees. A fresh and strong one, too. Often, much of the wood has started to rot and is ruined by the time the tree dies.
Ow.
It isn't even a little bit rare in the stockpiles where you come from, is it? Shiva asked, seeming a lot less amused as she stared at the now very uncomfortable artificer.
Adita just shook her head, looking worried. Shiva just sighed, crossing her arms. No, no! Can't be jealous of someone having what we will also have soon. I, for one, cannot wait to get started on this whole factory thing, Tink added happily. Having a workshop I have designed myself once more. And with all the fine equipment we have gotten now. Oh, it will be marvellous. Junior just cleared his throat a bit at that. Tink looking a touch confused before correcting himself. Had a hand in designing. Yes, definitely. It will sure be an upgrade from this place. We haven't got room for anything more in here, really. Speaking of which, I think we should just get on with it, Tom interjected with a bemused chuckle. Corlinger is working on lists of everything we need for the warehouse out of here. Mostly nails and brackets and such. Get that done first. Work on the shotguns when we can, save the machine gun ideas for free time, or later, when we hit winter or something. I'll be outside a lot helping there. We'll probably also need some of you from time to time. Sounds like a plan? There were some nods from around the shop of general agreement. Even if it was quite clear none of them were that happy about the far more interesting projects, getting moved back in favour of making nails and building a warehouse. But that was just life. They needed to get this warehouse done in a hurry, and there were still the bunkers to get done too. Actually, why do we need to get on with that if the wood isn't here yet? Tink questioned, a hint of hope in his voice. She is bleeding some smaller trees for us too. I don't know when they will be ready, but apparently we have to follow the bluebird. It should make for an interesting flight, that's for sure, Saf replied with a shrug. But I don't know when that is. We'll get the stuff done and then we can do more interesting things. Not like it doesn't need to be done, Tom interjected, looking around at the whole group. I'm sure we will find some time here and there, but, well, let's just get it done in a hurry. Could I go keep an eye on Fengi? Saf questioned, clearly directed at Tom and Shiva, as she glanced between the two of them. Sounds like you have things in hand here, and we need to work out how and where to go fetch those trees Celestine is prepping for us this year. Sure. No experimentation today. Thanks, the Huntress replied, giving them a quick nod before she was out the door and down the hall. Good speed and good luck, Grayskull. Tom, we need to go that way too. You said you wanted to help start the digging on the bunker, remember? Jackie added from next to him, seeming a touch confused. Oh, right. Well, you see, I just wanted to finish up the list of stuff we needed made, Tom countered, not willing to admit that he might have forgotten. I know how to make nails, Shiva added, not sounding overly impressed with him. Right. Oh. Well, in that case, I'll be going. Catch you all later. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. No need to catch me, Adita replied enthusiastically, as she rubbed her hands together excitedly. Good to hear, Tom just let out with a smile, heading out the door. Marvellous performance, that one, Tom. Feeling a bit better today? Fengi asked, in a cautious yet caring tone. Saf guessed Fengi was as much worried about the dragon's mood, after having learned just how much wood she would be hauling, as she was the progress of the healing. No, Idril just replied flatly, clearly intent on making today as difficult as possible. Fengi just sighed, knowing what came next well by now. You know the deal. We have talked about this, and you aren't that stupid. Idril didn't respond. Instead, she just slowly got up and lumbered towards the markers set out for the first bunker. What do you want me to do? She finally asked in a tired and disinterested tone, staring down at the marking stick and bits of string lining everything out. You will dig down, making a hole and putting the dirt over there. The hole must be square and with vertical sides. It will slide down a bit, but get it as good as you can, okay? We will use what wood we have to make a frame and a roof. You will then cover it all back up again, and that's that, Fengi explained. Sounds easy enough, Idril sighed, as the massive dragon raised a clawed paw and started carefully scratching at the ground along the marker line as they watched. Tom was here too, at least for now. He and Jackie were watching from a safe distance. Saf had helped last time they made one of these and could mostly remember what they had to do. So once they were underway, the human could probably run off to do other important things. They wouldn't be bothering excavating a bit at a time this time around, since there was no way a drill would actually fit in the hole, even if this bunker was going to be a bit bigger than the first one. She was mostly just hoping to at least help Fengi out a little with all this today. If nothing else, she could give a hug if needed. There were some other folk watching, but no one seemed overly interested in helping, or keeping a safe distance just like Tom. Jackie was of course by his side, acting as a bodyguard, but that was likely not against a drill. At least Saf hoped not. A drill had been gentle at first, carving out the hole nicely, then slowly starting to take layer after layer off. When Fengi had let slip that once she had dug out both of them, she would be done for the day, she had sped up quite a bit. All the woodwork would take time, and they still had to fashion a harness for her to haul the logs from the forest, not to mention find out just which trees Celestine had selected for them, and cut them down. Fengi had started off the day very tense. Saf could feel it, but after they got going and people started to lose interest, she eased up quite a bit. They even got away with telling a joke or two. Even if a drill did not partake, instead just getting on with it and working in silence, the scowl never leaving her face. So then, is this the worst job you have had yet? Saf questioned, crossing her arms. Not actually that bad, is it? I am digging a hole, a drill replied disinterestedly. Ever done that before? Yes, a drill growled in reply, as she carried on trying to straighten off her side. Doesn't take much to get on your nerves, does it? Just let her be. She's not much for talking, Fengi added, clearly rather annoyed with the dragon too. What is there to talk about? You already know all about me and I don't care about you, a drill replied, turning around while digging so her one eye was facing away from them for now. I guess that's a way to put it, Saf just sighed, as they watched the dragon work on in silence. The end result wasn't too bad. They were done in a couple hours, which was longer than it should have taken, really. But Fengi didn't seem willing to tell their digging machine to hurry up. It was mostly straight too, so it wasn't a terrible effort. Even so, it was a bit big, so a drill would have to fill in the gap between the wooden framing and the dirt sides.
Adril had been walked back to her sleeping spot, where she was allowed to lie down. They needed some measurements from the dragon for the pulling harness anyway, so she could have a bit of a rest as they got that done. After that, Adril had been put to work with even more digging, this time for the foundation for the warehouse. That project was quite a lot bigger. A lot of grass needed to be ripped up, and the ground below made as flat as possible. Then holes for the support beams would have to be dug. All in all, it was more than a single day's work, and Fengi had Adril digging away all the time until dinner, which left the dragon dirty and grimy all over. Her mood had turned quite grim after the long day's work, which Saf guessed had been a painful affair for the still slightly wounded dragon. "At least it isn't raining. Then you would be all muddy too," Fengi tried, apparently feeling that cheering up Adril was worth the effort. Saf could only sigh at her optimism. "Marvellous. Can I go lay down now?" Adril grumbled reluctantly with laboured breaths, not looking at them. "Do you want to go have a swim to rinse off first?" Fengi replied, with what Saf could best describe as cautious optimism. "No," was all the answer she got, as Adril looked up, staring at her while otherwise unmoving, waiting for permission. "Okay, go lie down over there. I'll see about your dinner." The dragon didn't acknowledge her, instead just walking off silently towards her sleeping spot from last night. The two women, along with the rest of the hands who were working down, stopped and stood there, watching the dragon wander off. "Well, I guess she saved us the trouble then," Saf tried, trying to find an upside to cheer Fengi up a little. Fengi just let out a long, tired-sounding sigh in response. "She is such an ass, but you have to feel a bit sorry for her." Saf took a second or two to think, before deciding that tough love might be what was needed in this case rather than sympathy. Much as it pained her to do that to Fengi. "Fengi, she tried to kill us and nearly got in the nook. We don't know how many people she has killed, but it is a lot. If she was a normal person, she would be given a mock trial and thrown off the edge. Beat her into shape. Don't take pity on her. If you're soft, she'll just pretend she's changed when, in reality, you're the only thing keeping her from killing us all in our sleep. It might not even be possible to fix her. If so, then you will be her moral compass." "I don't want to be," Fengi all but whined in response. "You know that. I also know it's not your choice. Remember the stories. Make her do good and you'll be a damn hero. Anyone who says otherwise is an idiot." "I could just tell her to be nice to everyone," Fengi tried to haggle. Saf knew she was hoping for an easy way out. Who wouldn't? "And then it would all be fake. The moment you let her be free, it falls away and she's back to murdering people. She might be even more evil than before. It could drive her completely mad." "What if it lasts forever, Saf? No one knows." Saf needed to think on that one for a bit. Could you really just force someone into being someone else? "Are you sure you want to try that? Remember what Major Jordan told us." "I know, but she's not a nice person, you said so. Would it be too wrong to force her into being one?" "I think so, yeah. Maybe just try to fix her right. Otherwise we won't be able to trust her." "What if it doesn't last? If it wears off one day or she gets out of it somehow, then think what she would do to us." "You are starting to sound like Unkai. He doesn't say it, but he doesn't trust me. Not even sure if he ever did, or he just thought I looked nice. Or the fact I'm literally the only girl his age around here," Fengi complained, throwing her arms up. No, he's just scared. The fact he hasn't tucked tail and run must mean he still loves you. He doesn't want to give up, he's just... Well, he's a coward if we're being honest." Saf sighed, giving Fengi a pat on the shoulder. "He'll get over it, I'm sure. I know Jordan is very proud of you for taking this all so seriously. I might just try to have fun with it, you know." "No, you wouldn't. You would use it to win," Fengi chuckled reluctantly, though a tear could be seen in the corner of her eye. "Maybe. But hey, think about what Jelena would have done," Saf tried in a more humorous tone. "She would ask for the world, then try to work out what went wrong when she got a bag of dirt," Fengi retorted, mood lightening a little. "Yeah, her having this power would be a fate worse than death for us all," Saf chuckled in reply. "Tom would have it worse though, that's for sure. But remember, no messing with the human's brain, even if it's to get some sweets." "Yeah, now that wouldn't do now, would it?" "Yeah. Just keep at it, Fengi. You'll get there. You're doing great." Tom had thought the keep was busy the 2 days before,
but preparing for the Inquisitor's departure had been something else. The Reds had returned with most of their crews, some having been left behind down below. Baron had left the evening before to take up station down in the caves, though that still left them with 5 dragons mulling about the keep, 3 of them getting ready to leave. Galaxa would lead, being the better long-distance flyer, compared to the 2 Reds, and he wanted to get out of Dodge as early as possible, once the Reds had landed. Everyone held because no one really wanted them to stay any longer than needed, especially after the prisoners were marched out to board. Said prisoners were tied down to the dragon's harness with arms, legs, wings, and mouth tied up. Even if they did manage to get free, they would be in for a very bad time. Blankets were provided here and there to those who looked like they would be in danger of freezing on the trip. The crews were in thick travelling clothes, so at least they should be comfortable. Or at least, sorta. It was getting colder after all. Tom didn't spy the 2 other artificers he had seen earlier amongst the people departing, so he guessed those 2 were indeed being left down in the tunnels to work their magic, or something like that. Adita had helped out with preparations for departure, and when all was more or less complete, Jelena had emerged from the keep in her thick travelling clothes once more. She did look slightly better than the last time he'd seen her. And that had been the evening before when she had come by his and Jackie's room to ask some more questions. Jackie hadn't been pleased in the slightest, but neither had Tom when he worked out that she had been keeping the revolver under her pillow. The Inquisitor hadn't seemed to mind at all, and Tom did manage to get Jackie's hand back under the blanket, before Glaz managed to stick her head in the door to see what the fuck was going on. Apparently, the problem was that the Inquisitor had now experienced what an amusement park was, and had been suitably confused by everything, including the food and especially mascots. It was to the point that she had to question if it was a movie or some strange imaginary place rather than an actual thing. Tom had confirmed that, yes, amusement parks were real. They were good fun, especially when you were little, and they were very expensive if you were the one paying. Everyone could actually afford a car if they wanted one. Yes, there was warm running water in every house, it was not just for the stinking rich, and ninjas were at least sort of real. He had no idea where the last one came from, but he had a feeling human sword-wielders in all black would not have been a pleasant dream for her. Now, though, she walked along, seeming at least mostly normal, Glaz right behind her as they headed over to the lined-up members of the Bismarti family. They were all there save for Nanook, which was understandable. They wished her a good flight, and the odd goodbye between people who knew each other was said goodbye. Then onwards, aboard one of the Reds, the procession went. The Dragon wasn't carrying any prisoners, but did instead have some extra crew aboard, likely so Jelena could have some privacy during her flight to recover, as she had put it herself. "Best of luck, you crazy bitch," Tom just sighed, still not sure if he should be pissed at her in the extreme, or thankful for all the stuff she had given them. By the sounds of it, she might have been the best Inquisitor whose attention they could have caught, depressing as that sounded. And now she was going, and they had everything they could possibly want now. Galaxa had set off at a trot before eventually kicking himself into the air, wings catching as the 2 smaller Reds gave chase. Soon enough, they were standing on the ground, watching the trio of dragons grow smaller and smaller in the distance, as they climbed up and away from the odd little keep, now left mostly to his own devices save for Paulin, and a pair of inquisitorial troopers left with her. Tom didn't know what those 2 were supposed to do if it came to it, but he had a feeling they were as much eyes and ears as they were muscle for her. Marvellous. Right. Let's get to it.